And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to Interlude Media, spelled out right, NTRLD_media. I'm your host, Nick DeSantis. You might know me as Nicky Nicknames. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by my co-host, the man holding it down on the ones and twos. That is Todd Roshong, but you might know him as T-Row Price because he understands that return on your investment. And this right here is the Interlude Pod, an idea to an idea, a podcast where two friends are chopping it up regarding the latest news you didn't know you needed to know, with the goal of teaching you something new and us how to run a podcast. But, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, I would be remiss if I don't mention that each one of these episodes is mixed, mastered, edited, and produced by none other than One Time Productions. So thank you for tuning in. T, take it away with the agenda today.
It's always good to be back on the podcast, Nick. Episode 16,
Yes, sir.
checking in. I'm going to be honest. I think this is going to be a little bit of a different episode for us because we don't really have much of an agenda. I think today, folks, for our dedicated listeners, this is going to be a little bit of a behind the scenes as to what Interlude is, where Interlude is potentially going. You know, what do we think's working? What do we think we can improve upon? Because we're 16 episodes in and we've released approximately an episode a week. So we're looking at, we're more than 4 months of episodes. And frankly, Nick and I have been at this for more than 6 months in terms of background information, discussions, trying to figure out what this thing's really going to take shape. So we've been at this for a little bit. And I think it's just kind of good time for a check-in, just kind of see where we're at. But first, I will say, we are occasionally, with the name Interlude, we're kind of a music adjacent podcast. So we at least can touch on a little bit of this just in, because Nick, I want to get your take. If you've seen, AI has infiltrated the top charts.
What do you mean?
So if you've seen kind of the top 50 on Spotify or Apple Music or anything like that.
It's making playlists? It's always made playlists. What are you talking about?
It's always made playlists, but no, there's the artist, the hot new artist by the name of Sienna Rose. And all signs are pointing to Sienna Rose not being a real person, that it is music that is AI generated. And it's making its way into the top 50 on Spotify. I believe there are 3 songs.
She sings and all that?
Yeah. It's vocals, it's background music, it's everything. And all of the signs, basically, if you click on the profile of Sienna Rose on Spotify, there's no photos, there's no social handles that are linked to it. It basically says that this is like an anonymously run page. And, it was previously referred to as a neo soul singer, but it seems like, this kind of anonymity of the profile has kind of been debunked. And it basically, everyone is kind of pointing out that this artist, Sienna Rose, is almost assuredly AI-generated music.
And people are upset?
I don't know if people are upset necessarily. I think that's up for interpretation, right? It's, do you think AI has a place in artwork, right? I mean, that's what music is. It's an expression of yourself.
I guess I'm just trying to understand the background here. So, people... It obvious that whoever Sienna Rose is, or whoever created, if this isn't a person, which I assume it's not based on the situation, they tried to hide it that this was a person instead of saying that this was AI.
Mm-hmm. So maybe that's kind of what's shooting them in the foot a little bit. It could be that if you were honest from the get-go that this is AI music, then maybe it could have been received well. But the thing is, if they've got 3 songs in the top 50 on Spotify, people like the music, clearly. So people aren't.
Well, I'm just saying that,
if you mad about the songs themselves.
I think from a branding perspective, you do have to name the entity, and so you name it after a singer. But if you create a fake profile and call them neo soul, there's just a whole bunch of
you're kind of
slippery slope. Let's call it that.
Yeah, you're kind of getting catfished on Spotify, which is an interesting concept.
Well, my head, just because I'm a rap fan, goes to the sense of, obviously rap's predominantly black artists.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were a group of white people making music, But using an AI, you could use choice words, if you know what I'm trying to get at. So, and I think that obviously destroys the integrity of what is going on. But at the same time, like, so I don't like it as that. I don't like it that they're promoting this as like, this is a neo soul singer. Because it's a bot. It could be all genres. But
yeah,
to me, this almost gets to a position where, like, it just reminds me of sampling, from the early onset of sampling, right? Because sampling was, you just took a song that was already made and use it in a different way for your own benefit. Whether that was even just keeping a whole beat the same in putting your lyrics over it, or taking a sample, which the term comes from, of a beat or of the lyrics, and looping that into what you have. Because the way I see it is there's art in the sense of creating it. Like, how many, and I always come from a rap perspective, and rap, if you have a ghostwriter, someone who's writing the songs for you, it's very frowned upon. But in a lot of other genres, a lot of people write for other people, in the sense of,
yes, 1000%.
There's someone who's a great singer who just has a better voice, and then there's also people who just might be excellent writers, and the singer might not be an excellent writer. So that writer wrote the lyrics, passes it to the singer, and they go ahead and sing. I see very much a similarity in that with what AI is doing, because you're writing and you're giving it to somebody who has a better voice. Now that is a computer program, and that to me is where the sampling comes in, because you're almost just like creating something new with something that's out there. And that's why I call it sampling. You're not really sampling something else, but it's like you're taking technology that's out there that in theory anybody can go use, and making it your own, which I don't mind that. I don't mind.
Kind of your closing argument, in a sense, there, that this is technology that's available to anybody and anybody can make it their own. That was probably,
which I don't know if it's true.
I don't know if it is either. Now, both of us are kind of speaking from an uneducated perspective here, but I will say that last statement that you made was the most compelling to me, because when you bring up sampling, like pure sampling, like you said, there were humans who created that beat, and then you took it. And then in the thing of other genres, this is especially common in country music, it's common in pop music, genres all across the board, where, to your point, there are writers and then somebody else performs the song. The thing with AI, and like I said, I'm speaking from an uneducated perspective, I don't know for sure, but there's a very good chance that AI wrote the lyrics and performed it and did all the background music. Like, somebody maybe put in a prompt and said, I want you to create this type of song and have these types of feels to it. But it's possible that nobody wrote the words, that nobody sampled the vocals, that nobody chose, what the cadence is going to be, where the bass is, where the hi-hat, like that none of it was human, other than engineering some sort of a prompt that would ultimately generate from scratch a new song. I don't know. Obviously, there's a human behind it in some way, shape, or form, because, artificial intelligence is a real thing, and it's something that a lot of people and companies rely on an everyday basis at this point. But at the end of the day, we are still, for now, in a position where the humans are the ones setting the rules for the machines. We don't yet have machines that are fully autonomous.
Well,
and so I assume
we don't know.
that they're we don't. I guess we don't. But we at least like to believe for now that the humans are still in control. So odds are there is a human behind the screen that's at least clicking generate, and then this music comes out. And now, like, I'll also say I use ChatGPT at work all the time, right, for generative writing. But what I'll do is I'll put in my prompt and it'll write something for me, and then I'll copy edit it before it actually gets out the door. So I'm using it as a starting point, and I wonder if that's what the Sienna Rose is, that AI creates the starting point, and then someone brings it into an audition and starts messing with the levels from there. I don't know.
I think this is even just bigger than music and just talks on AI as a whole, which is a completely, bigger conversation. But to me, from our artistic perspective, I know there's a lot of people that get upset because, this is going to take jobs, this is going to do that. I think there's an art to somebody being able to prompt really well and utilize AI to create anything that's out there. Okay? Because it is a skill. And you have to practice at it. You have to get comfortable with the machine in and of itself. So, and especially if you wrote the lyrics, right, and just told about to sing it, then boom, there was a lot of intent that went into this in a, I would consider, a positive way, or something that you were just, I think the word intent in and of itself, just very intentional in what you were trying to do, and you were making art for the sake of making art. Okay. The issue that I think this is bigger than music is with streaming, right? Because the more you stream, in a sense, the more profits you can generate in. And so if you can have just bots put out music,
Right.
and then that just starts generating money for the company, you're not creating that in a sense of, from the art. Now, obviously, there's artists out here who are just trying to make money. You have to make money. That's part of it. But you're also producing something, where this doesn't feel like you're producing something. It just feels like you're churning money.
I wonder, to your point.
That's where I think this gets shady.
I agree with you. And to your point, we've seen it that social media platforms, for example, are implementing AI content screens in some way. So I wonder if the likes of Spotify and Apple Music could do something similar, where if AI generated music is a real thing and it's out there and people enjoy it, then it should be available for streaming, but maybe there's a reduced revenue share that's tied to something that's AI generated.
Well, even if it's reduced generate, I just think this needs to be the case throughout, whether it's anything that's being posted online, anything like that. There needs to be some sort of symbol or something, and this would probably have to be a government regulation, but just a disclaimer letting you know that this was generated via AI, right? Because I don't care if you create the persona, like the branding. That's where this whole thing just becomes weird to me. If the music's good, the music's good, right? And I know there's a lot of the issue with that Coca-Cola commercial that was all AI generated. Hey, some of the when the squirrel was running around, some of the visual there was beautiful, and someone had to make that. Someone had to put it in. Now it's taking jobs. I get it. I get the negative side and why people are upset at it, but
yeah,
it made something that was visually appealing. It could make something that you want to listen to. That's it, I mean, and like that. To me, I don't mind that. I think that's cool, but I think there should be something that lets you know that that's the case, because if not, it just feels shady. It just feels shady. Because the Coca-Cola commercial, to bring that back up, it does have a disclaimer right in the beginning.
It did.
It says this is generated by AI right before it starts.
And so I think I think that takes us right back to where we started here. Of this Sienna Rose persona has been out there without an explicit AI generated disclaimer, and so I think you're right. I think that's why this is stirring up a little bit of commotion. Whether it's good or bad, we don't really know yet. But I think it's you bring up a good point. I think a lot of people are moving in that direction.
And this is what I was worried about, and what I don't like is I just Googled Sienna Rose and photos of a person who looks the same. So it looks like to be the same person. Now, granted, now we know this is AI. But you said it was Neo Soul or something like that was the singer. The photo is portraying like a... Okay, yeah, but the photo's portraying like a 70s black woman.
All the photos are stylized in a certain way to give them that kind of vintagey look. I mean, now don't get me wrong. There are plenty of, in the instance of Sienna Rose, for our listeners, if you don't know what Sienna Rose persona looks like, go ahead and Google it. There are plenty of black women who have that facial structure and do have that hairstyle still to this day. There are people who own it.
And you should be able to make the music. Right.
I agree.
But my point is, whoever is prompting it should be the photo that's on the cover in a sense. You see what I'm trying to say? Because
that's interesting.
Now you could call this, this is just getting deep, but you could almost call this blackface in a sense, where you're just like posing as something else. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, and that's where this becomes weird to me. And so like I just hope that whoever was making this was a black woman, like really, like, you know what I mean? So. I don't care if you've adjusted the way it looks, but I think it has to come from a place of, who you were and what you're representing in the music.
A place of honesty. A place of honesty.
Right. Yeah, so this is crazy, man. Because you could just become like, I could make a Russian rap song right now. I don't even know Russian. I could just have it translate.
Possible.
Like that's just it's just not real though. You know, it's
Yeah.
I don't know.
I hear you. Well, I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was an interesting topic for us with, like I said, the way that we are plugged into the music scene a pretty good amount here over at Interlude. But I think that takes us to a pretty good transition. You know, I mean, we got transitions in music, we got transitions in the podcast here of whether or
should we
not
what should we call it? The Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, we got to get that middle C music in here. We got to get a little. I got to get our new segment introducing.
Yes.
This is kind of what we call our Bob the Builder. You know.
Yes, sir.
We're open for sponsorships if you're looking.
No JID.
Throw some ad spend out there, but we call it Bob the Builder because this is what we are building, right? And this is something that's genuine, something that's honest, something that, like I said, we've put in 6+ months of work on of getting to the state that we're in today, and so. I think we're just kind of due for a check-in, you know, as to how do we think this is going. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm speaking from myself, and I hope that you agree. Yeah, I think we've had a blast doing this podcast. You know, hopping on the mic every week, talking to each other. It's been a good excuse, even if the social clips haven't taken off, even if we don't have monthly listeners on the episodes right now. It's given us an excuse to talk, to catch up more frequently, to stay abreast on what's going on in the world, and to be able to kind of share our own thoughts and experiences. And so I think it's been a success from that regard. But if we want Interlude as a podcast and as almost a media entity in and of itself, if we want it to take off, then you know, we need to have more concerted conversations to make that a reality.
I think first and foremost, what was the pod? You take the slogan, It's an idea to an idea, right? So the whole goal was that we're trying to find an idea that you can run with that's outside the 9 to 5, that's not bogged down, let's call it, by some of the corporate drag. Now, we also just need to get started. So to me, I hear that there's an episode a week. Bam. That goal was fulfilled. That's great. We haven't found the idea to an idea. Let's put it that way.
I hear you.
I think why this conversation is happening. But the situation that was put in front of us is now fulfilled, and you go from there. So that's what I like. I think it needed to get built up. I think it needed to get started, and I think that needed to be done before you move forward with it. But now we're there. So I think that's dope. When we originally started this, it was more of a background on, can we talk about different ideas to do and push that forward?
Right. That was where we started.
We just didn't have as many ideas. and I think that was a far-reached goal.
I think we also realized at that time, you know, we have creative ideas. We're creative people. We work in creative fields full-time, 9 to 5. And so we have lots of ideas. But what we pretty quickly came to realize was that those ideas are kind of best kept to ourselves, because that wouldn't be something engaging for a listener or for for social clips for people to want to watch along with. So I think we forced ourselves into a pivot of this format that we've gotten comfortable with, of this just in and Navidius Wilburn, and talking a lot about music, talking a lot about sports, because those are pop culture things that we thought people could relate to and that we thought could help us to build that preliminary audience. And
wait, but I'm intrigued. What ideas were you saying that we bottled up, that we didn't end up talking about?
I just think, I mean, you and I feel like we would do this a lot. We're just like, that frankly could be a business. You know, we talked about, I think, on our early episodes about whether or not this could be a media agency. Is it that we're going to be, contractors outsourced, that we can create commercials for people? We can do this or that.
I understand what you're saying.
So like, that was a business idea that we had. And you and I have talked about like business ideas, and ultimately, at least for now, Interlude has become that, of something that we can at least put our efforts towards. But
correct. Okay.
But I guess we still need that direction as to where we want this thing to go.
Well, okay. Yeah. So to unpack that, right. I mean, there's the business side of whatever it was. I think it started as we were just going to, like for a better term, shoot the shit about different ideas and try to figure out what's smart, what's dumb. Transparently, we don't have enough ideas to talk about one a week. And that just was not a good format. Now, maybe if we want to go back to something along those lines where it's truly the idea to an idea, you do less episodes and then really deep dive one or two ideas. I also just don't think that, I think it'll feel forced. And in the beginning, it felt forced to me, where some of the subjects that we talked about just don't, because you would talk about them in general. I think the situation that we're hitting with Interlude right now is, now granted, we don't have too many listeners who don't know this, but is a one-time paradox. Where one-time productions, when I first started and I was making videos and all of that, was you might like the video, you might like what's coming out, but there was no niche to it. There was nothing that had a central theme that brought you back. And we had always talked about that with Interlude. I think we have central themes, but it's almost just like right now we're designing our podcast to chase via socials, because we're chopping clips. We're trying to get them timed up to what is going on online and see if people connect. And truly, our best social posts have come when it's something that's talking about like a culturally relevant topic that's happening that day or that week. We've noticed that. So that model can work. What I don't think we're seeing, though, and it's still early, there's 16 episodes, but shout out 16 episodes, is we're not gaining growth to the pod, but also I haven't been on the socials like crazy, and because most of this stuff that we're getting engagements on TikTok, and I don't know even know if I have access to TikTok, but from what I've seen on the Instagrams, we're not gaining anybody following us based on a social clip that they see. Now I could be wrong, so if you have it in front of you, maybe we take a look at that. But I don't think we're seeing that.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up, and so what I'm intentionally doing here, I'm starting with Instagram. Okay, I'm on the Interlude Media Instagram account, viewing it from my personal profile. So that kind of is my benchmark of
right.
If I have mutual followers or following, then odds are they're only following Interlude because they know one of us, right?
They know, right.
So I look at our 26 followers on here, and
we'll just scroll down. Do you know everybody?
Damn near, yeah.
Right.
There are a couple names that I don't know, but the more that I open them up, it's a mutual follower with you. So you know these people. So at the very least, they know
but think about it.
One of us.
26 is all, and it's starting off, so I'm not saying that, but there's 26. I haven't looked at the numbers yet of the podcast itself either, but I can't assume. You would have to assume that less than 26 are listening to each episode as well.
Absolutely.
Which, look, we weren't necessarily doing this to blow up. And we said that from the jump, but I do think our idea is designed to try to blow up based on what
we've been doing thus far.
Correct. And look, I don't even mind talking about current events. I actually have fun doing that. It's just more of like, I don't know. I think we would have to get lucky on one video being really good that people relate to that want to come and follow. I don't think people are just going to come follow.
But even so, I empathize with everything that you're saying here, and I agree with you, because I think about, I try not to do this, we've talked about this before, but I think a lot of people our age fall into the occasional, just like you're sitting there scrolling, right? And you don't know, you're not paying attention to your surrounding. It's a mindless thing to do, right? And the algorithm is feeding you posts that it thinks you're going to like. And sometimes I do like it, sometimes I don't. But personally, I don't go start following a random account because I liked one thing that came up on my feed, right? Like, it's not going to yield to followers. Sometimes it yields to views and likes. We've had some posts that have gotten over 1,000 views,
Correct.
Some posts that have gotten 50 likes on them. That's cool. But 50 people liked it. On TikTok, we still have 18 followers. So, like, clearly not all 50 of those people had a care to follow along for future
what I'm
content.
saying is I think the way that this was designed was to get impressions, likes, so views, likes, and engagement in a sense on each post, right? This really wasn't designed as much to have a compelling podcast as a whole. So thank you to my parents for listening through each one. You already heard it here first. But I'm just looking at it from the nature of what it is, right? I think we, for our follower count, have done that. Like, not like maybe great, but well, like for what it is, right? Like we've had people engage and write comments on a lot of the videos. Have they been positive? No, it's just people reacting like very quickly to a post and moving forward. I think they're just making fun of the situation because it was a culturally relevant thing that came up on their feed. So I think we've gotten into the algorithm. I think we figured out the algorithm, but we didn't figure out the human connection yet. Okay.
I agree with you. And it's like what we're doing thus far. And I don't necessarily have the right words in my head to say this, but like right now we're casting a wide net because like you said, we're talking about things that are culturally relevant, but culturally relevant for us could be sports, could be music, could be something going on kind of politically. Like one of our best posts that we did was about election day, right? So we're casting a wide net. We're talking about a lot of different things, but no one thing that we've talked about have we gone deep on. And if you wanted to build, yeah, and I think what you're getting at here is that if we want to be building human connection, if we want to have an audience that feels like they're connected to us and we want to have an actual community that we can kind of manage in a certain way, then I agree with you that maybe we would be better suited if we had a topic and something that was our individual niche that we could drill deeper into and cover the full width of that topic instead of just sprinkling it amongst 8 other topics.
Now, and truly, we should also state this. Todd and we usually plan episodes and talk about things beforehand. This is the one episode where we have not. So you guys are hearing a true behind-the-scenes conversation here. So, you know, what we're saying, you're hearing it. We're both hearing it from the first time from each other. I did write down 2 things, and I think there's 2 directions for this podcast to go, and you just hit the first one, which I think we were putting in the work to get to right now, okay? Because we were just deciding each week what to talk about, and we could talk about anything, and that's fun. And we don't have that many listeners. We can mess around. We can just do that. But that also is showcasing at this moment in time, well, what have we enjoyed talking about the most and what flows most naturally, right? Yes. And I think we've seen it to a degree. And I think you're right. I don't think it's surprising to anybody what that is.
Over the course of 16 episodes.
Music related.
Yeah, over the course of 16 episodes, there are certain topics that we have the propensity to come back to. Even if we're still only kind of sprinkling and hitting the pop culture aspect of it, we keep coming back to music. We keep coming back to sports.
But sports, you name it, right? Like there's just been things that we've always hit. There's the fun random ones, which I don't mind keeping in just because it's funny. And you can figure out ways to tie all this together. You can figure out ways to tie all this together. But if you keep that niche, you have it. I also think there's something to be said of if we come into this instead of trying to build something that chases the socials and build something that chases the content, that's the difference, right? So if you do, we'll just take it a step back. We have a media perspective, I think, that comes from this. And we say music, but I also like throwing the books in here because I think we've had good conversations about it.
Oh, absolutely.
You do an album.
I mean, there's something to be said about the fact that we have a spins and flips section that we've hit almost every single week.
And so,
right?
And so what I'm getting at is I feel like interlude in idea here is that interlude just turns into spins and flips, right? In the fact that we've done an album where we talk about, but we could really deep dive, right? And you really go in. If it's a book, we both read the joint, come together, you discuss it. I mean, you could have 4 or 5, even more, up to 10 episodes, maybe a podcast on just one book, right? Of certain chapters, if you really go crazy. And I don't know how we want to do that, but I think that showcases the idea to an idea, because it's like, well, what have we enjoyed? And do we have to do this next episode? I don't even think so. I think we could even keep the current format, and you just start seeing where we gravitate towards and then start building that way, because we don't have it's still early enough, it's still green enough that we're not losing anybody based on what that is, because I don't think Interlude hasn't necessarily found the identity yet, which is fine. But this is the building process to get there. So welcome to Bob the Builder. No JID, if y'all know what I'm talking about. You feel me? But that's kind of the situation there that I think would be interesting to get to. And so that, obviously, that maybe comes off the pod conversation about how would we want to do that? How would that form? Maybe you spend more time, like in my mind, like a book, we would spend maybe more time. So maybe it's one episode every 2 weeks, because we're really getting detailed about the book and how we want to speak about it. If it's an album, maybe instead of just me showcasing 5 albums where I got it from this record store, I could really deep dive the album, talk about the songs in the record store, or you flip it, or really talk about the record store. I don't know. It could be that. Okay.
I like this.
So that was an idea. And I think that's just naturally where this has to go. But there's also a flip side to this. And this is the other. And if you want to, did you have something you wanted to wrap up with this before I go to the second idea I had?
No, I think you and I are on the same page here. What I was going to say is, to reiterate to the audience here, is that we had not spoken ahead of this episode. We just hopped on, and this is all happening raw and in the moment. So I do think it's very fascinating that without any sort of pre-planning or any pre-prep, we both have kind of come to the same conclusion that maybe diving into one niche and having that be our thing is the right future. But I'm very curious to hear what your idea number 2 is. So I wanted to intro and get you to that.
I guess the point, this is, and this is not taking it back and getting even more personal. I've always wanted to do something more creative. And I always enjoyed one time, which in theory was just creating like video form content, and you maybe say just more humorous video form content. And the reason I stopped and really didn't push is because I was like, there's no niche there. It's not going to go anywhere, which is more or less where Interlude's at. But I obviously don't want to stop. And when I created Interlude, I didn't want to get into a place where we got lost because there was no niche. But I also recognize a point where, so I was doing one time through college and then low key stopped. So what is that, 4 years, and nothing was going on, and something just needed to happen. And I think what people don't realize when you do something creative, and not even something creative, when you just do anything, it's really the time you put in, right? Like, first and foremost, T is not somebody who was like, I want to jump behind a podcast. When we first started doing this, and you saw the video, our promo video, I think really, it was a joke. I was going to
say, you and I talked about this. You and I talked about this on the very early episodes of the podcast, and this is something that we did throw into the promo video that we created, right? That, surface level, for people who know me, I'm a behind the scenes type of person. I'm not an in front of camera type of person. I never have been. It's not exactly my comfort spot to be. But to Nick's point, if we wanted to do something, then that required action, and that requires pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and doing something new, giving it a shot, and seeing what could work. So that's how we've gotten how far we have. But obviously, there's still work to be done.
That's what I'm getting to. And so the behind of that is, if you were starting off, you wouldn't have said podcast is the way to go, right? Like I wouldn't be like, for us too, this is the best decision because of the situation. And not even talking about me, I don't know what the hell I was doing either. So that's it. But I think the great part of it was that you stuck to it and did it, and then you naturally see where it went. But from the jump, the idea to an idea, which was the slogan, was designed to limit the niche problem, because what we were going to do is talk about different ideas that are coming up, and then either trying our own ideas out, and then talking about the ideas that we tried on the podcast. And with that, you could then interview other people who have started their own ideas. And it's more of like, I don't want to say educational, but it's like a group, and you're trying to create a community of people who are in that same boat that can connect. Because when I first sold this idea to some of the homies, and especially you, this is exactly what I said. I don't think we don't necessarily, like, that's option 2. And I think we could even stick to that. Point being, the branding and what Interlude becomes would change in a sense. Because what we would then do is, if we love the music and book idea, right? Maybe that becomes a YouTube video, and I'm just blanking on. This could even become its own podcast. And then Interlude, if you keep Interlude as the idea to an idea, we talk about us making the specific music thing, and you're showcasing the behind the scenes. So then this podcast will become maybe more interview focused, less episodes, more driven focus about building. So Bob the Builder becomes the whole thing, and talking to people who have also built something, and then we can relate because we've built something. Our hope was that the podcast would in and of itself become that, right? But then it becomes, in a sense, and how I'm looking at it, it's like, well, this has now become almost two different podcasts or two different ideas in what that looks like. And I have some ideas that we could pursue, like that we could go down that rabbit hole and do, and go from there. And I just don't know maybe how you brand it, because I think if we did do, let's just take the music or the book, for example. I kind of look at these the same way. But if we were just going to do a deep dive and we'll take this time to shout out Big Crit one time. But if we were going to deep dive Forever is a Mighty Long Time, which to me is the greatest album ever made, shout out,
absolutely,
respects. We could brand this as an Interlude Media video, an Interlude Media pod, you name it. But it's all about that. And then there's specific episode that is talking about just this conversation, because this episode already off rip is different than kind of what we've been doing. And then you have it there, right? So it's almost like the community build episode and then like the content episodes. And we could even go down different routes. And this is where Interlude could adjust, where we like talking about sports. We like talking about current events. We like talking about music, books, okay? The whole episode could just be about sports. Then the next episode could just be about current events, whatever that may be. And we could see, could we really do a whole episode based on this topic if we want to weed down the topic that we want to go down that route? And then I'm going crazy right now, but if you go music, all that, you could just make so much content, whether it's going straight to the socials or whether it's going straight to YouTube, where it's just a full length, something that's full length and deep, it's a deep dive. So that was a spitball, but
no. So I love it. I appreciate it. If I could jump in here, because
you're allowed to jump in, man.
You sparked a lot of ideas. You sparked a lot of ideas in my head here as you were going there. So I see a couple things, because I'm always kind of that operational, that logistics, that kind of like the facts, the business type of person. And so where I went with that is, if Interlude were to continue, as you're saying, if Interlude were to continue hitting multiple niches, then I could almost see us presenting this as like seasons of the podcast, where we could prepare and say, we want to do Forever is a Mighty Long Time. Okay. We're going to have a 12 episode season diving into this album. Okay. Now it's baseball season. We're going to have a 12 episode season diving into why the Mets franchise has heartbroken you for the past 27 years. We could do.
I see it. I worry about that though.
But I worry about that because I think we're still casting too wide of a net.
You cast a wide of net, but where I'm getting at is we're not at a point that we're losing followers today, right? So if we would have to start with one of these, and I get you with the season. I like that approach. But if we do baseball and you stick with it 12 episodes and we gain a big following, you can't Interlude now. That branding is baseball. Stuck. And hey, look, the idea to an idea, that becomes the idea. That's great. We're not going to be able to switch out of that. So what I was getting at is, instead of just deep diving like crazy, if we want to try things out and see if we could do a full episode on one or two of these things, then we try that out in the interim, right? And just do that now while we have that ability.
I say, to your point, the podcast is still very new. It's very green. We don't have followers. So we have, the world is our oyster. We got the freedom of choice here, and we could do whatever we want with these episodes. This is our show. It's our time that we are choosing to put into this. So we should be investing that time in the best way that we see fit, a way that's enjoyable for us. And something that we hope is sustainable long term. And I agree with you from the very get-go here that everything that Interlude has done thus far has been great. We've gotten comfortable but comfortable is not growing. Comfortable is not pushing. Comfortable is not finding the next step here in what we've got going.
I just don't think if we keep going the way we are, I don't think anything's going to change, which
I agree.
I don't know if it was the goal from the jump, but I think if you looked at like a big picture graph, I think we're right where we wanted to be at this date, right? Is that you got into a rhythm, and people at home, you might not realize just the tech that goes into this and figuring out when to do it, how to get connected. Is Verizon Wi-Fi going to work? Shit, Verizon Wi-Fi went out yesterday. I don't know if anybody saw that. Look, I don't know.
More
Did you
than
hear about
Wi-Fi.
this right here?
Yeah, so I'm
The
a
phone number's
Verizon
down. Oh, you
I'm
were?
a Verizon
You got hit?
customer. Yeah, so
That's
I was
it.
on SOS for the entirety
That's
of
it.
yesterday. I had no service.
Man,
I couldn't
Rihanna
do
mode.
anything. Mm-hmm.
On Rihanna mode the whole day. How about that right there? Okay, for all the Morse code listeners, you know what I'm saying. But
Absolutely.
I don't know how the doctor said I don't have ADD, Ma. I'm sorry, man. Okay, look, I get focused when I'm rolling, but things I'm boo, 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 boo. I'm like that game Pong, but just speed it up.
Oh yeah. Speed it up real quick.
Yeah. I'm like Wheat Tanks. Pow, pow, pow. But speaking of Wheat Tanks, that was one of my ideas. Okay, so that's where I don't know that, but that's where I don't know, and that's where I'm still being pulled with this, is because from the start of anything going on, I obviously love music, and I think this just speaks to career in general of which route you want to go down, and this has been a big thing for me, is figuring out what that looks like. I obviously love music, obviously love that, but I think I just love the idea that you could just go and do anything you want and talk about anything you want. And I think that's cool, but I don't think that works in the long run. But at the same time, if we just deep dive something, I think we'd be more proud of the output that we're producing than we are now. Like, I think right now, both you and I would say we're proud of the process. Are you specifically proud of an episode that you've made individually? Right. And not in a mean way, you know, I would say the same thing.
Frankly,
I'm proud of the situation.
Yeah, I'm proud of us for getting ourselves out here, for the fact that we've been on the airwaves for as long as we have, that we've put out as many social clips as we have. I mean, shit. Most people who start a podcast, this is a real statistic here. I don't know it off the top of my head, but most people who start a podcast, they don't make it past episode 5, right? You know, the fact that we've made it to episode 16, the fact that we've got 83 social media posts. Okay, mind you, folks, I'm not a social media person. A personal Instagram that I've been running since 2012 is the earliest post that I have on my Instagram. I have 59 total posts.
Don't throw yourself down this hole, Ty. We know you in social media, man.
We've put 83 posts out over the course of 4 months. You know, to your point, I'm proud of the fact that we've got something going. We've got something figured out. We have a groove. We record every week, damn near it at least. We figured out the tech. We've got Riverside working in our favor. We got the headphones. We got the mics. We did all the logistics. But to your point, the thing that, you know, if there were a piece of content to be proud of, it may be the promo video, right? But that's not even a pod. And that's not the long term. That was a 190-second clip, right? So,
but that speaks to what I'm getting at, is that I was enjoying to do, right? And I enjoy doing the pod, actually, folks. Look,
without a doubt, these episodes
never
are
give an only child a microphone. Okay, all right, and if Todd wasn't here, we would have a problem. You be listening to 3-hour episodes of shit. I forget to eat dinner. Look at okay, so that's first and foremost. That's what's up. Yeah, Todd, get off.
Nah.
Todd, turn off the camera.
Let me go
off.
You stuck with me now, dude. We're in this. We're in this.
Let me go off. No, but that was crazy. I'm calling pause on myself. Shoot. Man, I lost it. I ain't gonna lie, that was a good one.
We were talking about how doing the promo video was something that we put our mind to, and we enjoyed it, right? And we got ourselves into it from start to finish, and it was good, and it came out good. It came out exactly what we wanted.
Right. But we enjoyed doing that. And what if you did more of that? right? Like anything that we enjoy doing, what if we did more of that? It is the moral of this whole story. Is if we enjoyed doing something, why not do more of that and figure out how to make that deeper, bigger, whatever you want to call it. And we want an interlude to be on media. This is Interlude Pod. I think we also need to think about that, right? Interlude Pod's an idea to an idea. Interlude media could be something bigger. And right now we have time to engage in that. I could go sit there, go outside in New York, film a little video of me messing around like some classic one time and post it on Interlude. And that wouldn't, in my opinion, that wouldn't be weird based on the branding that we have right now.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I absolutely
because of
agree
where
with
we're
you.
at. And I think that's an interesting thing that we haven't necessarily, we thought about it in the beginning, and I don't think we've come back to that, is could we use Interlude as a brand to now post things, whether that's posting on the Instagrams, the socials, it could even be another podcast that's more topic based, or a YouTube channel, like a YouTube video that deep dives something. And so that's where my brain obviously went to music. There's things there that, and this is just me. This is where I go and where I think. But also, and this is just a one-time idea, and that was no pun intended with One-Time Productions, but literally just a one-time idea would be a We Tanks breakdown. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I think we got to talk about it. But shout out Ben Barrich again, sending that video of the We Tanks music breakdown.
Yeah, you forwarded this along to me. I didn't watch the whole thing because it is a deep dive. It is.
You didn't get through it. You didn't get through it.
I didn't watch. No,
that's totally fine. Really, this conversation is stemming because of that video, and now people might be like, "Yo, Nick D, you're crazy." You're right.
Well, listen. When we put this episode out, we can link to that. For whoever is listening, whoever is interested. Just as a point of emphasis to be like, okay, we are coming from a genuine place here, and that is a fascinating video, and I can see now having that knowledge, right? Hindsight is 2020. I can see how watching that has sparked this conversation.
It did,
and I still think that this conversation's happening right when we needed it to.
I also need to give a shout out to the homie Colton Van Til. So Cote was popping because I talked to him about this too, and deep dive on this. And his opinion and recommendation was to deep dive a subject. The video of We Tanks I don't want to say transform me, but it made me rethink things because, ladies and gentlemen, the breakdown of it is in We Tanks. There's music in the background of the game that you're playing, right? And it's obviously was designed as more of like a children's little mini game inside of a bigger package called We Play. The music behind it, there was a lot of like random elements that they put in where certain tanks trump others in terms of priority, in terms of like power, like the opposing tanks, some are better than the others. In terms of movement, how fast they shoot, the rockets they shoot versus bullets, whatever that may be. And each tank has certain elements of music tied to them, right? So one of the top tanks has like a tuba that comes in. Another one adds a different bass line. Another one has this. So there's a bass melody rhythm that's very simple. And then each tank adds one thing. So when if you eliminate one, that rhythm in the song or that instrument gets taken out. So that's the basic of the video. This kid just went crazy deep dive on this. For those who don't know, I'm a huge We Tanks guy. I've always loved We Tanks. Probably in the most humbly way possible. I might be top, 5% in the world, you think, at this game? I don't think honestly, that many people play it also.
I was gonna say to this day, the fact, the amount of skill that Nick has in this game. Now, folks, Nick brought it up. He's a big We Tanks guy. He's got the Wii in the apartment, right? And more often than not, when I pull up to the apartment, we break out tanks. Okay, and we could have not played for months on end. And I say we, it could be you, right? You could play with whoever else, but you could go months on end without playing. And when you get back on the sticks, like you just have it. Like it's so ingrained.
But I played this. Look, I'm Malcolm Gladwell on this game.
So I'm back in your claim.
10,000 hours, which is not good.
I'm back in your claim here that you are probably one of, grand scheme of amount of people that are still playing tanks, you're up there because you are so dedicated to this game, and it's something that you'll go deep into in your free time. Then that's kind of where we're getting.
So the point being is obviously the seeing this video just sparked a nostalgia game in. When you play solo, you can't get to there's 100 levels, and you play 2-player, there's only 20. I've never beaten all 100. It takes a long time. I've been to 98 of them, and there's YouTube videos of people beating 100. So that's why I'm obviously not in this percentage. But it would be interesting of a topic that is loved to deep dive, and I think it would be funny if we did a breakdown of the knowledge that we have on how to beat the game, and you just go crazy and do that. So that was the first idea that came to mind because I saw this Tanks game. Texting this also to Benny, this is the 20th year of the Wii. The Wii came out in 2006, which when We Play came out. So this would be year 20. So beating level 100 in year 20, I feel like would be just like, bam, that staple. And so it could be kind of like the showcasing of the process of beating 100, but a detailed breakdown of doing that. Right. So and maybe one of the videos is like literally a breakdown of each level. And we could do 2-player with this, but 1 through 20. How where you're supposed to be? We could like take the screenshot, circle it like John Madden-esque, you know.
I was going to say that's the interesting part is you said this is 20 years and the 2-player is 20 levels, and you and
I didn't think of that. Bam.
And you and I have kind of our working strategy of when we play, and when we play We Tanks, we are doing the multiplayer We Tanks. We got 20 levels in front of us, and we have a strategy on how we're going to attack each level. Like we could break down that strategy that we follow on a pretty repeatable basis in order to try to beat all 20 levels. So I see what you're getting at here. Though. Like We Tanks is one example. It's one microcosm of what could be Interlude.
It was just the best idea that I had as of right now, right? There was not something that had sparked that I was like, that's something that really energized me. I think would be fun because then there's like live content with it. We would probably just take a weekend, take all the time. I'm going to grind and see if I can get to level 100 and somehow we get cameras rolling and film, you know, the process. And if/when it were to happen, it would just be a party. We would just be celebrating that across the world. Okay, come on now. Level 100. But that's the situation. And I think that just has an interesting side to it. The flip of that is where do you go from there, right? Like music, at least there's always a recurring topic. Books, there's always a recurring topic that comes down the pipeline that you can go to and do that. I don't know if we have kind of what pointed, deep dive ability.
Right. I think that's kind of what pointed me into the seasons idea of a podcast where but to your point with the We Tanks, you know, if it were a deep dive on how to beat 20 levels in multiplayer or how to beat 100 levels in single player, that's a one-off piece of content that absolutely could fall under the Interlude umbrella.
Right.
But I think we fall back into the same issue that Interlude is just an umbrella and it doesn't have an identity in and of itself.
But where I come back to that is the original idea, and so now this is obviously sticking to idea 2 that I had in my head, was the pod is an idea to an idea. So the podcast would remain more or less
always
the
the
same.
behind the scenes.
You just talk about the situation going down. We would deep dive these podcasts more. Like we would take these more seriously in the sense of not just like going on and finding current events. We would really deliberate what we want to talk about on here because in theory, we were pushing another idea out while this is going on. So the time that we spent doing this, more time now being put, let's take We Tanks, to producing the We Tanks video, to producing the We Tanks, whatever that was, right?
Yeah. So I hear you on all this.
You have one or 2 pods a month. We're talking about where we were, and then maybe you interview somebody to chop it up of, you know, what their idea was, where they think we are with our idea. Now look, maybe We Tanks I lead in a sense, and now you have like a book that you're about, and you go on that. We still have the ability to try out different ideas and go go down that rabbit hole because the
I
pod would stay what the pod was.
I hear you. I'm understanding. This is not me shooting the idea down. This is just me speaking with gut reactions here, is that idea number 2 in your head here it's even more strain on our already limited resources, right? We work full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we do as our 5 to 9 after our 9 to 5, right? So a podcast and doing social clips, I don't want to say it's the easy way out, but it was something that we were able to get spun up given the amount of time commitment that we were initially planning on making. And so if we want to scale this up even further, where it gets to the point of doing long form video, things that are going on YouTube, things that require in-person filming sessions, that takes a lot more time, that takes a lot more production, that takes a lot more editing skills that I know, speaking from personal experience, I don't have the skills to edit a full YouTube video. So either that is going to be a huge learning curve for one or both of us to learn editing skills, or that requires outsourcing and using like a Fiverr and hiring somebody to do the editing for us, which we
or
don't
just
have
one
any,
of the homies.
Potentially one of the homies if someone's willing to help out in that regard. But idea number 2, like I said, this is not me shooting it down, but this is acknowledging that that's a larger undertaking than what Interlude currently is.
Yes.
Idea number 1,
1,000%.
If idea number 1 is that we take spins and flips, and now instead of having Interlude Pod, the idea to an idea, we have Interlude Pod, spins and flips. That is the slogan, and that is the niche. Then we continue making episodes on a weekly, or maybe it is a bi-weekly cadence, and take records. For an example, you've got the vinyls. We pick a record of the week in a sense. You spin it on vinyl, I stream it on my end. We both give it a good listen, we digest it, we make our notes, and then we have our deep dive episode. And every week it's going to be something repeatable, and it doesn't take too much more of a time commitment than where we're already at, because we're already listening to music 24/7 anyway. That's just kind of who we are, right? So
right.
We've always been thoughtful about the music that we listen to. Now we're just dedicating this time on whatever it may be, a Monday night, and this week in particular, it's a Thursday night. We just know that we're going to dedicate that time. Yeah, kind of thing. Exactly. Right. It's a record club, a book club, and that's the niche that Interlude has the potential to become. And all I'm saying here is that is a path of least resistance compared to idea number 2.
Correct. No, I fully understand. It's just more, where does that go, and where do you want to put? I think timing wise, it's not necessarily, because it would just take longer to do X, right? Like,
for sure,
we were at a fast cadence, so if you do something like a video editing, that you might be able to only get one video out a month, where we were getting 4 podcasts out a month, right? So it just becomes a difference in terms of that. But it's obviously not as easy.
And we're obviously early on enough that we don't have to stick to what it's been, because this has all been a discovery process for us. And so if that's the direction that we want to go, there's nothing stopping us, like we've said. But it's, I'm glad that we've gotten all this out there. I think some of the follow-up conversations are going to happen off the pod between you and I, discussing idea number 1 and idea number 2, and starting to kind of set a plan to get those things in motion. To your point, we can be having those off-pod conversations while continuing to just do our usual for now, because it's comfortable, because it's easy. There's nothing stopping us from continuing the weekly episodes that are This Just In and Spins and Flips and Navidius and Inspiration, and we call it at that for now, while we continue to tinker on the backside. I don't know. I think I come back to I appreciate you. I appreciate all the effort that we've put in, the fact that this was your idea from the get-go, and I'm glad that we've jumped in as far as we have. Do I want to say that we dove head first? No, and we knew we couldn't, right? Because this wasn't going to be, out the get-go at least, this wasn't going to be something that can support us. So we needed this to be dipping our toes into the water and figuring out are we comfortable getting deeper? And I think we're starting to reach that point. And so, yeah, that's just a conversation that you and I are going to have. But I appreciate you for bringing this up today. I think this is a conversation that we were ultimately working towards, and today was a better day than ever. Like there was no wrong time to have this conversation, and
Right.
Today's as good a day as ever today.
But I think you needed experience before we did that.
Mm-hmm.
Not you specifically, like us as a whole.
Us, yeah,
we
absolutely.
needed experience before we had this, and that's the one thing I'll throw in there before we get up out of here. But is you could even make like interlude media, or this is the interlude spins and flips pod. Then there's the interlude, the idea to an idea pod, where maybe the idea to an idea is, which is pretty much what we're doing right now. So it would be this podcast where we're talking about the idea, breaking it down. These could be way less often. So we're constantly doing spins and flips. That has now just become the idea. But we also keep this rolling to showcase the back end to people. And this could be where we would interview somebody who has a completely different idea, where spins and flips, if we were to interview somebody, it would be somebody who had an interest in X album or Y book, So it's...
I see you. Yeah, I hear you. There's absolutely nothing stopping us from making this, a brand, a media. I don't want to call it a conglomerate, because obviously it's not. We're quite small, but right. I think of the Barstools of the world, right, or the John Boys of the world, where
yes,
it's Barstool
that's the
Sports,
goal, right? I mean,
Barstool Sports is the parent company, right? But you've got how many different podcasts that they run, how many different social channels that they run. The fact that Barstool is now on ESPN and on FS1, like they've gotten themselves out there in different ways, but it all wraps up under Barstool. Right. That could be interlude in a sense, right? And like you said, we've got the spins and flips. Niche is one of them. We've got the this just in niche. That's one of them. We don't know. We absolutely could end up in a place like that down the road. For now, when it's just you and I, and we are the only resources that this podcast and this media company has, we're gonna have to, I don't want to say temper expectations, but we're gonna have to be methodical with how we start to implement this stuff to try to get the most juice out of the squeeze, right?
And I think the ending fact is, think about what we want to put more time into, and can we're doing the same thing through and through. What could we do to make it different? Whether it's just one more promo video that's more fun and dropping that and moving on, something like that, right? Like from the jump, when we first had a conversation about doing something, the overall goal was the Barstool whatever media entity, because we first thought of being an agency and helping brands out and doing it that way. But hey, look, we hate to do it being the middleman, which we're creating a middleman, but at least we own it. It's something that you own. In theory, interlude could be that. It could promote things. It could also promote whatever we want to talk about, right? So in theory, we're promoting ourselves. I enjoy that idea because I love how it could be a media conglomerate. I think it's time to start thinking about what's the spinoff? What could we do? Now, in an ideal world, the spins and flips has something every week. Because we're talking about wheat tanks, the video game sector has something every week. You would actually probably take spins and flips out of it. The spins has one every week. The flips has one every week. Right, we're not there yet. We don't have the ability to do that, and we could grow. Food for thought. As we get out of here, though, Middle C been cooking.
Oh, that's interesting.
Nah, he's not Middle C anymore, so I gotta give credit where credit's due. But Frank Flash rebrand.
Frank Flash, okay.
Frank Flash has been cooking to the point of music. So I think he's dropping tomorrow.
Wow, that's exciting.
And he's never dropped a song as Frank Flash. Now, look, is any of this going to go anywhere as of right now? Who knows? I support, obviously, what Middle C, Frank Flash, is doing. And if interlude media becomes a thing where we are trying to help promote his joint out,
Right.
We make a music video promoting that. I'm not trying to get on his rate, but
you're right.
Let's say he makes something and we're reposting it. However that looks, I find that intriguing as well to see how that could go. And we're so early in the process that we can go down these holes. So
we can explore a lot of different avenues.
I'm going to put out there.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
All but I do have some inspiration to close us off, if unless you got something to say.
No. I think that sounds lovely, folks. We told you from the jump we didn't have an agenda. We did a little bit of this just in. We've done quite a bit of Bob the Builder, so I don't see why Nicky Nicknames wouldn't take us out with his parting inspiration too.
Well, thank you. Last time we had a podcast, Todd, and my inspiration, it might have been about you. I don't know if we want to say roasting.
A little bit. It was a little,
maybe
but
a little.
But it was deserved. It was deserved.
Maybe a little.
It was welcome.
Didn't know the birthday. You know, it is what it was. But this time, you're also going to be the forefront of the inspiration here.
Why is that?
But truly, it had nothing to do with you. When I was writing the slogan, ladies and gentlemen, for this podcast, I don't know why T. Rowe Price came to mind. I like calling Todd T, but you got Todd Roshong, T. Rowe. That's probably where my brain went to the connection here. I also love a good ROI because, ladies and gentlemen, what is ROI? I can tell you that right now. It's return on investment. And this man over here understands that. So T. Rowe Price, the whole company is based on having a positive ROI. Now, I remember I used to see those T. Rowe Price commercials in the old NBC run Notre Dame games back when I was a kid. You know that I forget the logo. I think it's like a little sheep or something. The T. Rowe Price action.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Come on now. I can't be. What is that thing? Yeah, a ram. Yep, it's a ram. You heard it here first. Just stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
Bam. Gotta love the horns on the ram. Come on. But for the first time in a long time, I saw a T. Rowe Price commercial this past weekend. Ooh. I don't know if you've seen this one, Todd. There's a new T. Rowe Price commercial, and I haven't heard the name T. Rowe Price used outside of this podcast in a while. So when I heard like T. Rowe Price, I stood up. It shocked me. I thought that was really funny. So that's the inspiration right there. But to talk about, I think this has to do with our this episode really well, is it was clearly an AI generated ad. In the ad's pretty bad. Like it's terrible. It's just people start running and then they start running like really fast and it's like T. Rowe Price can get you there. And I was like, man, the real T. Rowe Price? Like the man sitting on Interlude Media could have built something better than this. So that's what it is, man. You've gotten it here. Yeah, you could lead T. Rowe Price better than the way T. Rowe Price is leading itself. And I'm not talking on some Christopher Nolan, but that's some Inception. So just think about that. Food for thought. I don't know how much of an inspiration it is. I was kind of upset, but I know I was stoked. I didn't know how to feel about this ad.
This is an inspiration WD-40 combo by the sounds of things. So we really hit on all of our agenda items, whether we had an agenda coming into this episode or not. So I appreciate the conversation that we've had today. Folks, you know where this is going. This concludes another episode of the Interlude Pod. That's Nicky D. I'm your co-host, Todd. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode half as much as we've enjoyed making it for you.
Because we had a ball. And only real ideas are going to last. All the other bullshit is here today and gone tomorrow.
So with that, we will see you next time. We'll see you on the socials. We'll have you tuning into the episode. And who knows what deep dive we might be going down into next. But either way, good night, New York.
Good night, Connecticut.